Yeah, Father, the Son, and Holy Spirit, with this book of Zechariah. In the 8th month of the 2nd year of Darius, this word of our Father in heaven came to the prophet Zechariah, son of Berechiah, son of Iddo. Our Father in heaven was very angry with your fathers. Say to them further, thus said our Father in heaven of hosts, turn back to me, says our Father in heaven of hosts, and I will turn back to you, said our Father in heaven of hosts. Do not be like your fathers, for when the earlier prophets called to them, thus said our Father in heaven of hosts, come turn back from your evil ways and your evil deeds. They did not obey or give heed to me, because our Father in heaven, where are your fathers now? And did the prophets live forever? But the warnings and the decrees with which I charged my servants, the prophets, overtook your fathers, did they not? And in the end, they had to admit, our Father in heaven has dwelt with us according to our ways and our deeds, just as he purposed. On the 24th day of the 11th month of the 2nd year of Darius, the month of Shabbat, this word of our Father in heaven came to the prophet Zechariah, son of Berechiah, son of Iddo. In the night I had a vision. I saw a man mounted on a bay horse, standing among the myrtles in the deep, and behind him were bay, sorrel, and white horses. Meditating on this stuff. I asked, what are those, my master? And the angel who talked with me answered, I will let you know what they are. Then the man who was standing among the myrtles spoke up and said, these were sent out by our Father in heaven to roam the earth. It says among the myrtles, or between the mountains. And in fact, they reported to the angel of our Father in heaven, who was standing between the mountains, we have roamed the earth and have found all the earth dwelling in tranquility. Thereupon the angel of our Father in heaven exclaimed, O our Father in heaven of hosts, how long will you withhold pardon from Jerusalem and the towns of Yehuda, which you placed under a curse 70 years ago? Our Father in heaven replied with kind, comforting words to the angel who talked with me. Then the angel who talked with me said to me, proclaim, thus said our Father in heaven of hosts, I am very jealous for Jerusalem, for Zion, and I am very angry with those nations that are at ease. For I was only angry a little, but they overdid the punishment. And surely thus said our Father in heaven, I graciously return to Jerusalem. My house shall be built in her, declares our Father in heaven of hosts. The measuring line is being applied to Jerusalem. Proclaim further, thus said our Father in heaven of hosts, my towns shall yet overflow with bounty. For our Father in heaven will again comfort Zion. Who to Jerusalem again. I looked up and I saw 4 horns. I asked the angel who talked with me, what are those? What are those? Those, he replied, are the horns that tossed Jehudah, Israel, and Jerusalem. Then our Father in heaven showed me 4 smiths. What are they coming to do? I asked. He replied, those are the horns that tossed Jehudah, so that no man could raise his head. And these men have come to throw them into a panic, to hew down the horns of the nations that raise a horn against the land of Yehuda, to toss it. I looked up and I saw a man holding a measuring line. Where are you going? I asked. To measure Jerusalem. He replied, to see how long and wide it is to be. But the angel who talked with me came forward, and another angel came forward to meet him. The former said to him, run to that young man and tell him, Jerusalem shall be peopled as a city without walls, so many shall be the men and cattle it contains. And I myself, because our Father in heaven will be a wall of fire all around it, and I will be a glory inside it. This is why he measured Jerusalem. Away, away, flee from the land of the north, says our Father in heaven. Though I swept you there like the 4 winds of heaven, declares our Father in heaven, away, escape, O Zion. You who dwell in fair Babylon. But let's said our Father in heaven of hosts, he who sent me after glory, whose presence sent me concerning the nations, and I've taken you as spoil. Whoever touches you touches the people of his touches the people of my eye, of his own eye, my eye, for I will lift, it says, according to ancient Jewish tradition, the scribe will change from the people of my eye. For I will lift my hand against them, and they shall be spoiled for those they enslaved. Then you shall know that I was sent by our Father in the post. Shout for joy, fear Zion, for lo, I come, and I will dwell in your midst, declares our Father in heaven. In that day many nations will attach themselves to our Father in heaven and become his people, and he will dwell in your midst. Then you will know that I was sent to you by our Father in heaven of hosts. Our Father in heaven will take Judah to himself as his portion in the Holy Land, and he will choose Jerusalem once more. Be silent, all flesh, before our Father in heaven, free his brows from his holy habitation. He further showed me Yahshua, the high priest, standing before the angel of our Father in heaven, and the accuser, and Satan, standing at his right to accuse him. But the angel of our Father in heaven said to Satan, our Father in heaven rebuke you, O Satan. May our Father in heaven, who has chosen Jerusalem, rebuke you. For this is a brand plucked from the fire. Now Yahshua was clothed in filthy garments when he stood before the angel. The latter spoke up and said to his attendants, take the filthy garments off him. And he said then, see, I have removed your guilt from you, and you shall be clothed in priestly robes. Then he gave the order. Then I gave the order, let a ritually pure diadem be placed on his head. And they placed the pure diadem on his head and clothed him in priestly. Yahshua has not been rendered fit to associate with the heavenly beings. It says Yahshua has not been rendered fit to associate with the heavenly beings. On his head and clothed him in priestly garments, as the angel of our Father never stood by. And the angel of our Father never charged Yahshua as follows. Thus said our Father in heaven of hosts, if you walk in my paths and keep my charge, you in turn will rule my house and guard my courts, and I will permit you to move among these attendants. Hearken well, O high priest Yahshua, you and your fellow priests sitting before you, for those men are a sign that I am going to bring my servant, the branch, the future king of David's line. For mark well, this stone which I placed before Yahshua, a single stone with 7 eyes. The meaning of Hebrew uncertain. The stone apparently symbolizes the Elohim giving power of the future. Davidic ruler, see below. Yeah, man. 7 eyes. A single stone with 7 eyes. I will execute its engraving, declares our Father in heaven of hosts, and I will remove the country's guilt in a single day. And that day, declares our Father in heaven of hosts, you'll be inviting each other to the shade of vines and fig trees. It's sad, but it's beautiful how this stuff was prophesied about. But it's sad how I'm reading the Jewish Tanakh, which they still think that they still think that the future that Davidic ruler, like they still think the root of David, the Messiah, has not come yet, which he did. If you read about everything he did, who he was and what he stood for, and how he moved around, how he spoke, how he acted, how he thought, pick it all apart, you'll understand that this stuff is real, and you'll understand that he already came. And you'll understand that he said when he came, the kingdom of heaven is already upon us. It's already here. You have to understand that, though. Spiritually, the way these things are moving, these principalities, this war that's going on, is coming to an end very, very soon. You need to repent. The kingdom of heaven is near. And people think about, if you're looking at this video right now, think about how the years in your own life flew by. What's 100 years? That's fast. That's light, for real, for real. It says one day down here is 1,000 years to our Father in heaven. Scriptural. Understand that? And that may be even still not all the way exactly on point. Our Father in heaven can do whatever he wants. He can make me disappear right now before your very eyes. He could take me into a vision, a trance, and have me in a trance for 30 days straight. He could just do whatever he wants with me. You feel me? But this is why we only fear our Father in heaven, because he can do whatever he wants with you. Understand that? The angel who talked with me came back and woke me as a man in waking. The angel who talked with me came back and woke me as a man is waking from sleep. He said to me, what do you see? And I answered, I see a lampstand all of gold with a bowl above it. And the lamps on it are 7 in number, and the lamps above it have 7 pipes. And by it are 2 olive trees, one on the right of the bowl and one on its left. I in turn asked the angel who talked with me, what do those things mean? My master, do you not know that Do you not know what those things mean? I asked the angel who talked with me, and I said, No, my master. Then he explained to me as follows. The explanation is given in the last sentence of verse 10, and explained to me as follows. Okay, this is the word of our Father, and it's Zerubbabel, not by might nor by power, but by my spirit. This is spiritual. Said our Father in heaven of hosts. Zerubbabel will succeed by means of spiritual gifts conferred upon him by our Father in heaven. He said, but by my spirit. That's why Messiah said, for those who worship in truth and in spirit. But by my spirit, said our Father in heaven of hosts, whoever you are, a great mountain in the path of Zerubbabel, turn into level ground. For he shall produce the excellent stone and shall be greeted with shouts of beautiful, beautiful. Yo, it says it right here. Whoever you are, a great mountain in the path of Zerubbabel, turn into level ground. For he shall produce that excellent stone, the chief cornerstone. It shall be greeted with shouts of beautiful, beautiful, as they were cheering him on as he was walking. That's why he said, he said the stones would cheer for me. These people weren't cheering for me, to the Pharisees and the scribes. And the word of our Father in heaven came to Zerubbabel's hands Zerubbabel's hands have founded this house, and Zerubbabel's hands shall complete it. Then you shall know that it was our Father in heaven of hosts who sent me to you. Does anyone scorn a day of small beginnings? When they see the stone of distinction in the hand of Zerubbabel, they shall rejoice. Those 7 are the eyes of our Father in heaven, ranging over the whole earth. And what I asked him are those 2 olive trees on the right and on the left of the lampstand. And I further asked him, what are the 2 tops of the olive trees that feed their gold through those 2 golden tubes? He asked me, don't you know what they are? And I replied, no, my master. Then he explained, they are the 2 anointed dignitaries who attend our Father in heaven of all the earth. I looked up again and I saw a flying scroll. What do you see? He asked, and I replied, a flying scroll 20 cubits long and 10 cubits wide. Then he explained to me, is the curse which goes out over the whole land? Is the curse which he explained to me is the curse which goes out over the whole land for everyone who has stolen as is forbidden on one side of this scroll has gone unpunished, and everyone who has sworn falsely as is forbidden on the other side of it has gone unpunished. But I have sent it forth, declares our Father in heaven of hosts, and the curse shall enter the house of the thief and the house of the one who swears falsely by my name, and it shall lodge inside their houses and shall consume them to the last timber and stone. Then the angel who talked with me came forward and said, now look up and note this other object that is approaching. I asked, what is it? And he said, this tub that is approaching, a measure of capacity that is approaching this, said he is their eye. He is their guilt, some interpretations say. Subjectiveness and Syriac guilt in all the land. And behold, a disc of lead was lifted. But it will say their eye and all the land. And behold, a disc of lead was lifted, revealing a woman seated inside the tub that he said is wickedness. This will be prophecy, maybe a revelation. It talks about the woman, bathing in our blood. And behold, a disc of lead was lifted, revealing a woman seated inside the tub that he said is wickedness. And thrusting him down into the tub, he pressed the leaden weight into his mouth. I looked up again and saw 2 women come. I saw 2 women come, soaring with the wind in their wings. They had wings like those of a stork, and carry off the tub between earth and sky. Where are they taking the tub? I asked the angel who talked with me, and he answered, to build a shrine for it in the land of Shinar, Babylonia. A stand shall be erected for it, and it shall be set down there upon the stand. I looked up again, and I saw 4 chariots were coming out from between the 2 mountains. The mountains were of copper. The horses of the first chariot were bay. The horses of the second chariot were black. The horses of the third chariot were white, and the horses of the fourth chariot were spotted, dappled. And I spoke up and asked the angel who talked with me, what are those, my master? And replied, the angel said to me, those are the 4 winds of heaven coming out after presenting themselves to our Father in heaven of all the earth. The one with the black horses is going. This is definitely prophecy of revelation right here. Pray that you can hear me well too. Okay. There we go. The one with the black horses is going out to the region of the north. The white ones have gone out to what is the west of them. The spotted ones have gone out to the region of the south, and the dappled ones have gone out. They were ready to start out and range the earth. And he gave them the order to start out and range the earth, and they ranged the earth. Then he alerted me and said to me, take good note. Those that went out to the region of the north have done my pleasure. Gratification. In the region of the north, the word of our Father in heaven came to me, received from the exiled community from Heldiah, Tobiah, and Jedediah, who have come from Babylon, and you in turn proceed the same day to the house of Josiah, son of Zephaniah, take silver and gold and make crowns. Place one on the head of high priest Joshua of Jehozadak, and say to him, thus said our Father in heaven of hosts, behold, a man called the branch shall branch out from the place where he is, and he shall build the temple of our Father in heaven. He shall build the temple of our Father in heaven, and shall assume majesty, and he shall sit on his throne and rule. And there shall also be a priest seated on his throne, on his right side, and harmonious understanding shall prevail between them. The crown shall remain in the temple of our Father in heaven as a memorial to Helam, Tobiah, Jedediah, and Josiah, son of Zephaniah. Men from far away shall come and take part in the building of the temple of our Father in heaven. And you shall know that I have been sent to you by our Father in heaven of hosts. If only you will obey our Father in heaven, your Elohim, in the 4th year of King Darius, on the 4th day of the 9th month, Kislev, the word of our Father in heaven came to Zechariah, when Bethel Sharazar, Regamelech and his men, to entreat the favor of our Father in heaven, and to address this inquiry to the priest of the house of our Father in heaven, and to the prophet shall I weep and practice abstinence in the 5th month, because of the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem. As I have been doing all these years, shall I weep and practice abstinence in the 5th month, as I have been doing all these years? Thereupon the word of our Father in heaven of hosts came to me, say to all the people of the land, and to the priests, when you fasted and lamented in the 5th and 7th months, all these 70 years did you fast for my benefit, and when you eat and drink, who but you does the eating, and who but you does the drinking? Look, this is the message that our Father never proclaimed through the earlier prophets, when Jerusalem and the towns about her were peopled and tranquil, when the Negeb and the Shephelah were peopled. And the word of our Father never came to Zechariah continued, thus said our Father never of hosts, execute true justice, deal loyally and compassionately with one another, do not defraud the widow, the orphan, the stranger, and the poor, and do not plot evil against one another. But they refused to pay heed, they presented their bulky back and turned a deaf ear. They hardened their hearts like adamant against heeding the instruction and admonition that our Father in heaven of hosts sent to them by his Spirit through the earlier prophets, and a terrible wrath issued from our Father in heaven of hosts, even as he called, and they would not listen. So said our Father in heaven of hosts, let them call, and I will not listen. I dispersed them among all those nations which they had not known, and the land was left behind, them desolate, without any who came and went. They caused a delightful land to be turned into a desolation. The word of our Father in heaven of hosts came to me. Thus said our Father in heaven of hosts, I am very jealous for Zion. I am fiercely jealous for her. Thus said our Father in heaven, I have returned to Zion, and I will dwell in Jerusalem. Jerusalem will be called the city of faithfulness, and the mount of our Father in heaven of hosts, the holy mount. Thus said our Father in heaven of hosts, there shall yet be old men and women in the squares of Jerusalem, each with staff in hand, because of the great age, and the squares of the city shall be crowded with boys and girls playing in the squares. Thus said our Father in heaven of hosts, though it will seem impossible to the remnant of this people, in those days shall it also be impossible to me, declares our Father in heaven of hosts. Thus said our Father in heaven of hosts, I will rescue my people from the lands of the east and from the lands of the west, and I will bring them home to dwell in Jerusalem. They shall be my people, and I will be their Elohim in truth and sincerity. Thus said our Father in heaven of hosts, take courage, you who now hear these words which the prophet spoke when the foundations were laid for the rebuilding of the temple, the house of our Father in heaven of hosts. For before that time the earnings of men were now, and profits from beasts were nothing. It was not safe to go about one's business on account of enemies. And I set all men against one another, but now I will not treat the remnant of this people as before, declares our Father in heaven of hosts. But what it sows shall prosper, the vine shall produce its fruit, the ground shall produce its yield, and the sky shall provide their moisture. I will bestow all these things upon the remnant of this people, And just as you were a curse among the nations, O house of Judah and house of Israel, so when I vindicate you, you shall become a blessing. Have no fear, take courage. Amen. For thus said our Father in heaven of hosts, just as I planned to afflict you and did not relent when your fathers provoked me to anger, said our Father in heaven of hosts, so at this time I have turned a plan to do good to Jerusalem and to the house of Judah. Have no fear, these are the things you are to do. Speak the truth to one another, run the truth and perfect justice in your gates, and do not continue evil against one another, and do not love perjury, because all those are the things that I hate, declares our Father in heaven. And the word of our Father in heaven of hosts came to me, saying, thus said our Father in heaven of hosts, the fast of the 4th month, the fast of the 5th month, the fast of the 7th month, and the fast of the 10th month shall become occasions for joy and gladness, happy festivals for the house of Judah, but you must love honesty and integrity. Thus said our Father in heaven of hosts, peoples and the inhabitants of many cities shall yet come. The inhabitants of one shall go to the other and say, let us go and entreat the favor of our Father in heaven. Let us seek our Father in heaven of hosts. I will go too. The many peoples and a multitude of nations shall come to seek our Father in heaven of hosts in Jerusalem, and to entreat the favor of our Father in heaven. Thus said our Father in heaven of hosts, in those days 10 men from nations of every tongue would take hold. They would take hold of every Jew by a corner of his cloak and say, let us go with you, for we have heard that Elohim is with you. A pronouncement, the word of our Father in heaven. He will preside in the land of Hadrach and Damascus, for all men's eyes will turn to our Father in heaven, like all the tribes of Israel, including Hamath, which borders on it, and Tyre, and Sidon. Though they are very wise, Tyre has built herself a fortress. She has amassed silver like dust and gold like the mud in the streets. But my master, our Father in heaven, will impoverish her. He will defeat her forces at sea, and she herself shall be consumed by fire. Yeah, this is definitely prophecy of Revelation. Ashkelon shall see it and be frightened. Gaza shall tremble violently, and Ekron at the collapse of her hopes. Kingship shall vanish from Gaza. Ashkelon shall be without inhabitants. In a mongrel people shall settle in Ashdod. I will uproot the grandeur of Philistia, but I will clean out the blood from its mouth, and the detestable things from between its teeth. Its survivors too shall belong to our Elohim. They shall become like a clan of Yehuda, and Ekron shall be like the Jebusites, and I will encamp in my house as a garrison against any that come and go, and no oppressor shall ever overturn them again. For I have now taken note with my own eyes of my suffering, of their suffering. We said, for I have not taken note with my own eyes. Rejoice greatly, fair Zion. Raise a shout, fair Jerusalem. Lo, your king is coming to you. He is victorious, triumphant, yet humble, riding on a donkey. Yeah, this is powerful. Yet humble, riding on a donkey. On a donkey, followed by a sheep colt. She has, and he shall banish chariots from Ephraim. He shall banish chariots from Ephraim, and horses from Jerusalem. The warrior's bow shall be banished. He shall call on the nations to surrender. By she donkey. He shall banish. Yeah. Legend, if you're looking at this, on a donkey foaled by a she donkey. He shall banish chariots from Ephraim. Yeah, because you don't want to say that A word, because, it's technically not a curse word, but, Satan's language, he's turned that word into something else. Like many other words, he's perverted many words, so you want to understand the word that's coming out of your mouth when you're speaking to others or when you're speaking to somebody else. So I would prefer to use the word donkey there. It says donkey before that. That A word is a donkey or a colt, I believe, and a COLT. I think that's like a baby horse or something like that. I'll have to look that up and fact that, but Father sounds very Buddhist. On a donkey foaled by a she colt. He shall banish chariots from Ephraim and horses from Jerusalem. The warrior's bow shall be banished. He shall call in any other two brother or sister. Just, talk to our Father, and our Father will lay a message from me to you. May our Father sounds very with us. Amen. The warrior's bow shall be banished. He shall call in the nations to surrender, and his rule shall extend from sea to sea, and from ocean to lands, and you for your part have released your prisoners from the dry pit for the sake of the blood of your covenant. saying, Return to Bezalran, you prisoners of hope. In return, I announce this day, I will repay you double, for I have drawn Judah taut and applied my hand to Ephraim as to a bow, and I will arouse your sons, O Zion, against your sons, O Javan, and make you like a warrior's sword. And our Father in heaven will manifest himself to them, to Judah, and his arrow shall, it says at the bottom, it says, i.e. Judah, but then there it says to them, and his arrow shall flash like lightning. Our Father in heaven, Elohim, shall sound the ram's horn, and advance in a stormy tempest. Our Father in heaven, the host will protect them. His sling stones shall devour and conquer, and they shall drink, shall rage as with wine, and be filled with it like a dashing bowl, like the corners of an altar. Our Father in heaven, their Elohim, shall prosper them on that day. He shall pasture his people like sheep. They shall be like crown jewels glittering on his toil. How lovely, how beautiful they shall be, producing young men like new grain, young women like new wine. Ask our Father in heaven for rain in the season of late rain. In its season, the early rain and the late. It is our Father in heaven who causes storm, and he will provide rainstorms for them, producing food for men, grass in the fields for cattle. Beautiful. He will provide rainstorms for them, grass in the fields for everyone. For the teraphim, idols consulted for oracles, spoke delusion. The augurers predicted falsely, and dreamers speak lies and console with illusions. That is why my people have strayed facts. Like a flock, they suffer for lack of a shepherd. My anger is roused against the shepherds, and I will punish the he-goats, the oppressive leaders. For our Father in the host has taken thought in behalf of his flock, the house of Yehudah. He will make them like majestic chargers in battle. From them shall come shields and bucklers, cornerstones from them tent pegs, for them bows of combat, and every captain shall also arise from them. And together they shall be like warriors in battle, tramping in the dirt of the streets. They shall fight, for our Father in heaven shall be with them, and they shall put horsemen to shame. I will give victory to the house of Yehudah, and triumph to the house of Joseph. I will restore them, for I have pardoned them, and it shall be as though I had never disowned them. For I, our Father in heaven, am their Elohim, and I will answer their prayers. Ephraim shall be like a warrior in Nay. And when Ephraim is victorious, they shall exalt as with wine. Their children shall see it and rejoice. They shall exalt in our Father in heaven. I will whistle to them and gather them, for I will redeem them. They shall increase and continue increasing. For though I sowed them among the nations in the distant places, they shall remember me. They shall escape with their children and shall return. I will bring them back from the land of Mizraim, Egypt, and gather them from Assyria, and I will bring them to the lands of Gilead and Lebanon, and even they shall not suffice for them. A hemmed in force shall pass over the sea, and shall stir up waves in the sea. And all the deeps of the Nile shall dry up. Down shall come the pride of Assyria, and the scepter of Egypt shall pass away. But I will make them mighty through our Father in heaven, and they shall march pleasingly in his name, because our Father in heaven, definitely not proudly. Meaning of Hebrews, and the sedation yields, and they shall have glory in his name. That's a better interpretation. Because our Father in heaven, throw upon your gates, O Lebanon, and let fire consume your cedars. How, cypresses? For cedars have fallen. How the mighty are ravaged. How you oaks of Bashan, for the steady forest is laid low. Hark the wailing of the shepherds, for their rich pastures are ravaged. Hark the roaring of the great beast, for the jungle of the Jordan is ravaged. Thus said our Father, thus said my Elohim, our Father in heaven. To the sheep meant for slaughter, whose buyers will slaughter them with impunity, whose seller will say, Praised be our Father in heaven, I'll get rich. And whose shepherd will not pity them, for I will pity the inhabitants of the land. No more declares our Father in heaven, but I will place every man at the mercy of every other man, and at the mercy of his king they shall break the country to bits, and I will not rescue it from their hands. So I tended the sheep meant for slaughter, for the sheep dealers, for those poor men of the sheep. I got 2 staffs, one of which I named Favor, and the other Unity, and I proceeded to tend the sheep. But I lost the 3 shepherds, the sheep dealers, in 1 month. Then my patience with them was at an end. and they in turn were disgusted with me. So I declared, I am not going to I'm not going to tend you. Let the one that is to die and the one that is to get lost, and let the rest devour each other's flesh. Taking my staff favor, I cleft it in two, so as to annul the covenant I made with all the peoples. Blue interpretation of 14. Made with all the peoples. He said to annul the covenant I made with all the peoples. And when it was annulled that day, the same poor men of the sheep who hired me, realized that it was a message from my Father in heaven. Then I said to them, if you are satisfied, pay me my wages. If not, don't. See, they weighed out my wages, 30 shekels of silver, the noble sum that I was worth in their estimation. Our Father in heaven said to me, deposit it in the treasury. And I took the 30 shekels and deposited it in the treasury in the house of our Father in heaven. And I cleft into my second staff, unity, in order to annul the brotherhood between Judah and Israel. Our Father in heaven said to me, further, get yourself the gear of a foolish shepherd, for I'm going to raise up in the land a shepherd who will neither miss the lost sheep, nor seek the strayed, nor heal the injured, nor sustain the frail, but will feast on the flesh of the fat ones and tear off their hooves. O the worthless shepherd, who abandons the flock, let his sword descend upon his arm and upon his right eye. His arm shall shrivel up, his right eye shall go blind. A pronouncement, the word of our Father in heaven concerning Israel, the utterance of our Father in heaven, who stretched out the skies and made firm the earth and created man's breath within him. Amen. Behold, I will make Jerusalem a bowl of reeling for the peoples all around. Judah shall be caught up in the siege upon Jerusalem. When all the nations of the earth gather against her in that day, I will make Jerusalem a stone for all the peoples to live. All who lift it shall injure themselves in that day, declares thy Father in heaven. I will strike every horse with panic and its rider with madness, but I will watch over the house. Open the eyes of Judah while I strike all. I will watch over. I was reading the bottom of the drain. I will watch over the house of Judah while I strike every house of the peoples with blindness, and the clans of Judah will say to themselves, the doors of Jerusalem are a task set for us by the Elohim, our Father in heaven, of hosts. In that day, I will make the clans of Judah like a flaming brazier among sticks, and like a flaming torch among sheaves. They shall devour all the besieging peoples right and left, and Jerusalem shall continue on its site in Jerusalem. Our Father in heaven will give victory to the tents of Judah first, so that the glory of the house of David and the glory of the inhabitants of Jerusalem may not be too great for Judah in that day. Our Father in heaven will shield the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and the feeblest of them shall be in that day like David, in the house of David, like a divine being, like an angel of our Father in heaven. At their head in that day I will all but annihilate all the nations that came up against Jerusalem, but I will fill the house of David and the inhabitants of Jerusalem with a spirit of pity and compassion, and they shall lament. And they shall lament to me about those who are slain, wailing over them as over a favorite son, and showing bitter grief as over a firstborn. In that day, the wailing in Jerusalem shall be as great as the wailing at Adad Ramon in the plain of Megadon. The land shall wail, each family by itself, the family of the house of David by themselves, and the womenfolk by themselves, the family of the house of Nathan by themselves, and their womenfolk by themselves, the family of the house of Levi by themselves, and their womenfolk by themselves, the family of the Shemites by themselves, and their womenfolk by themselves, and all the other families, every family by itself with their womenfolk by themselves. In that day, a fountain shall be opened to the house of David and the inhabitants of Jerusalem for purging and cleansing. In that day, too, declares our Father in heaven of hosts, I will erase the very names of the idols from the land; they shall not be uttered any more. And I will also make the prophets and the unclean spirit vanish from the land. If anyone prophesies thereafter, his own father and mother, who brought him into the world, will say to him, you shall die, for you have lied in the name of our Father in heaven. And his own father and mother, who brought him into the world, will put him to death when he prophesies. In that day, every prophet will be ashamed of the visions he had when he prophesied in order to deceive. He will not wear a hairy mantle, and he will declare, I am not a prophet, I am a tiller of the soil. You see, I was piled with the red stuff from my youth on, And if he is asked, what are those sores on your back? He will reply, from being beaten in the homes of my friends. No sword rises up against my shepherd, the man in charge of my flock. Says our Father in heaven, opposed to strike down the shepherd and let the flock scatter. I will also, and I will also turn my hand against all the shepherd boys throughout the land. Says our Father in heaven. 2/3 shall perish, shall die, and 1/3 of it shall survive. That third I will put into the fire, and I will melt, and I will smelt them as one smelts silver, and test them as one tests gold. They will invoke me by my name, and I will respond to them. I will declare, you are my people, and they will declare, our Father in heaven is our name. So this basically just let us know right here what's going to happen to us. And only 1/3 of this whole Earth's population is going to survive. It says 2/3 shall perish, shall die. So that means 2/3 of this world is going to die, and 1/3 of it shall survive. That third I will put into the fire. This is the fiery trials, and I will smelt them as one smelts silver. This is why it's so hard, yo. This is real. And test them as one tests gold. They will invoke me by my name, and I will respond to them. I will declare, you are my people, and they will declare, our Father in heaven is our Elohim. I remember making a video about this while our Father in the Son of the Spirit would happen, about people are asking why it's so hard to get to the kingdom of heaven, or why it's so hard down here, period. It's because it's this. 2/3 shall perish, shall die, and 1/3 of it shall survive. The ones that will survive, that third, he's putting us through the fiery trials, and will smelt them as one smelts silver, and test them as one tests gold. They will invoke me by my name, and I will respond to them. I will declare, you are my people, and they will declare, our Father in heaven is our Elohim. Lo, a day of our Father in heaven is coming, when your spoil shall be divided in your very midst. For I will gather all the nations to Jerusalem for war. The city shall be captured, the houses plundered, and the woman violated, and a part of the city shall go into exile, but the rest of the population shall not be uprooted from the city. Then our Father in heaven will come forth and make war on those nations as he is wont to make war in a day of battle. Wont to make war in a day of battle. On that day he will set his feet on the Mount of Olives near Jerusalem on the east, and the Mount of Olives shall split across from east to west, and one part of the mount shall shift to the north and the other to the south. A huge gorge in the valley of the hills shall be stopped up, but the valley of the hills shall reach only to Azal. It shall be stopped up as it was stopped up as a result of the earthquake in the days of King Uzziah of Jerusalem. And our Father in heaven, Elohim, with all the holy things will come to you. In that day there shall be neither sunlight nor cold moonlight, but there shall be a continuous day. Only our Father in heaven knows when of neither day or night, and there shall be light as an eventide. In that day fresh water shall flow from Jerusalem, part of it to the eastern sea, and part to the western sea throughout the summer and winter. And our Father in heaven shall be king over all the earth. In that day there shall be one Father with one name. Our Father in heaven alone shall be worshipped and shall be invoked by his true name. Yeah. Then the whole country shall become like the Arabah, shall be pressed like the Jordan Valley, from Gibeah to Ramah, south of Jerusalem. The latter, however, shall perch high up where it is, and shall be inhabited. From the gate of Benjamin to the site of the old gate, down to the corner gate, and from the tower of Hanael to the king's wine presses. Never again shall destruction be decreed, and Jerusalem shall dwell secure. As for those peoples that warred against Jerusalem, our Father never will smite them with this plague. Their flesh shall rot away while they stand on their feet. Their eyes shall root away in their sockets, and their tongue shall rot away in their mouths. In that day a great panic from our Father never shall fall upon them, and everyone shall snatch at the hand of another, and everyone shall raise his hand against everyone else's hand. Judah shall join the fighting in Jerusalem, and the wealth of all the nations round about, vast quantities of gold, silver, and clothing, shall be gathered in the same plague, shall strike the horses, the mules, the camels, and the donkeys. The plague shall affect all the animals in those camps. All who survive of all those nations that came up against Jerusalem shall make a pilgrimage year by year to bow low to the king, our Father in heaven of hosts, and to observe the feast of booths. Any of the earth's communities that does not make the pilgrimage to Jerusalem to bow low to the king, our Father in heaven of hosts, shall receive no rain. However, if the community of Egypt does not make this pilgrimage, it shall not be visited by the same affliction with which our Father in heaven will strike the other nations. They do not come up to observe the feast of booths. Such shall be the punishment of Egypt, and of all other nations that do not come up to observe the feast of booths. In that day, even the bells on the horses shall be inscribed holy to our Father in heaven. The metal pots in the house of our Father in heaven shall be like the basins before the altar. Indeed, every metal pot in Jerusalem and in Judah shall be holy to our Father in heaven of hosts. And all those who sacrifice shall come and take of these to boil their sacrificial meat in that day. In that day there shall be no more traitors in the house of our Father in heaven of hosts. Wow, now I'm on the book of Malachi. So may our Father and Son, let's get the book of Malachi finished up as well.